Well, hello there. My name is Mountain, and today I'd like to talk to you about this. And what is this, you might ask? Well, this, my friends, is the Evergoods Elements Weathershed 22-liter bag. Now, Evergoods, of course, is the Montana-based manufacturer of pretty much some of the very best, in my opinion, bags and small EDC pouches in the carry game these days, and I have reviewed a lot of their bags in this channel in the past. Now, as for this bag, as its name suggests, this bag belongs to the Elements line of high-tech products first introduced by Evergoods last year, I think, and it's been characterized by their use of kind of a high-tech fabric, very different than what they usually use, and kind of advanced manufacturing techniques, which maybe you might interpret as Kevin D living out his dream of RF welding everything Arc'teryx style. I'm joking, of course. As the name Weathershed rather bluntly suggests, this bag is designed primarily as an extremely weather and water resistant bag, and is probably one of the most specialized bags that Evergoods has produced to date. Now, in terms of its strengths, it is, as you might expect, highly water resistant. And we'll get into all of that here in a minute, but this is a very water resistant or waterproof fabric, certainly, and a lot of the construction is designed to prevent water ingress. It has a very high-tech material and advanced and quite unusual for Evergoods kind of construction techniques, including the usage of taped seams here and welded seams in some of the different parts of the bag. And it has a pretty good load carriage system and a generally high refinement of execution for a water-resistant bag relative to a lot of what's out there in the market these days. Now, it has quite a few compromises, though, in order to achieve this goal. Its weaknesses include it has a very low amount of internal organization. My friends, this is it. It has a lack of any kind of first order access pocket. Usually Evergoods has like a yoke pocket or some other kind of first order pocket, nothing like that on this bag. Pretty fussy access, to be honest, into the main body of the bag. Like, you can get this open pretty easily, but trying to get stuff inside is a two-handed, set the bag down kind of affair. And you basically need a bunch of pouches in order to run this as an EDC bag in any kind of like urban or normal kind of EDC context, in my opinion. Now, the main thing to take away from this bag is that the Elements Weathershed is very, very much a niche bag that makes a lot of sacrifices, perhaps too many in some people's opinion, including possibly mine, to achieve a very high degree of weather resistance that still falls short of full waterproofness. Like, you can't, it's not a waterproof bag. If you throw this in a lake, water will obviously get in here. And that makes it a pretty narrow niche to aim for, like between full waterproofness and like very high water resistance, but even more so, right? At the compromise of like too much, not enough EDC, etc. So you really need to weigh your actual need for a high degree of water resistance when it comes to this bag. As of the time of this recording, the Weathershed is available in a single size, that's this 22-liter size, in a single color, this solution dyed black, and material weight, that's this nylon TPU laminate here, and it retails for $350 US. Can be found over on Evergoods.us, or some of the countries like Japan, I think, have their own specific Evergoods site. Now, speaking of $350 US, I don't usually talk about pricing on this channel since everyone has a different circumstances and valuation paradigms. However, I will note that that makes this the second most expensive bag on the Evergoods website at the time of recording, and it's exceeded only by a limited edition waxed canvas version of their CPL 24. In my opinion, this is quite an unusually high price point for a bag of comparatively less utility than some of the other bags that they offer here, so that might be something that you need to kind of think about here. As usual, all products were purchased with my own money and all opinions are my own. The last thing I'm going to talk about before I get into all of this bag here is that while I normally tend to use gear for several months or even years before rambling about them at length on this channel, I've only been using this bag for about 3.5 weeks or so, but I've seen a ton of questions about this bag online, and I haven't seen too many reviews about it, so I thought I would do a quick review, or sorry, it's not a review. Thought I would do like a quick video about this, admittedly niche product. So maybe keep in mind that, given this abbreviated evaluation period, is more of like kind of like a Mountain's initial thoughts on this bag or initial impressions on this bag after 3.5 weeks rather than a proper full-blown review. Okay, friends, so who is this bag for and who is it not for? Well, I think the first thing, as I've said a couple times already, is like, do you need a high degree of water resistance in your use case? Because if not, almost all the use cases for this bag are better served by other bags which have less compromises. But assuming you do need a high degree of water resistance, then some of the people who this bag might be for are, well, those who need a high degree of water resistance for urban use with small loadouts. Like I said, this bag has very limited organization. That's just it. This little zipper pocket and these pockets here, and then there is technically like a little laptop, tablet thing here. That's it. So if your number one priority is just, you've got a small loadout, like you can see, it fits some stuff. We'll talk about what it can fit in here, but it's not a huge bag. And you don't need a bunch of organization for stuff, and you need a high degree of water resistance, and you want a bag that looks good in the urban as opposed to like a fishing or like outdoor kind of context. This could be a good bag for that. If you carry a large volume of like soft, voluminous, non-delicate items, so like stuffing clothes like a parka or sweater or a puffy, or maybe even like a small amount of like groceries like fruit or something, rice or something like that, I don't know, flour, that might work in this bag. Also maybe like gym shoes and some clothes or something like that might work in this bag as well. And finally, I think the Gorecore or the Techwear homies, like that's probably the only use case I could think of for this bag that doesn't center around as explicit water resistance as the first kind of feature why you would choose this. So like this bag has a certain aesthetic that I think appeals to people who resonate with that kind of Gorecore Techwear thing. So if you're wearing your Boris Bijan and Solomon Gore-Tex hiking boots and a Beta AR to go to the corner store, and there's nothing wrong with that, my friends. You do you. Like, this might be a great bag to kind of, roll with you. And I'm not going to lie, like actually the aesthetics of this bag, as well as just my general interest in kind of like some of the techniques they use to construct this bag is why I picked this up. I don't actually need a super highly water resistant bag in my everyday life. Now, who is this bag not for? So if you're carrying bulky or delicate or hard items, this bag has no padding. There's no padding on this whatsoever. It's a very floppy bag. There's a little padding on the back panel, but no like sidewalls, no protection or whatever. So anything you put in there, like imagine big thick textbooks or a camera or whatever, there's no internal organization. It's all going to bang against each other. It's going to bang against whatever you set it against, etc. This is not at all a good bag for that. It's not a good bag for those that like organization for all the reasons I already talked about. And I also think that pouches are basically mandatory if you want to run this bag in any kind of usable EDC configuration. And finally, it's not a good bag for those who are like looking for a dedicated outdoor weather resistant bag or a true waterproof bag. This is more of like an urban bag. If you're looking outdoor dedicated stuff, you really need like proper true water resistance, you need to go to a full waterproof bag with like actual waterproof, like, zippers or like a true roll top that cinches shut, and there's, obviously bags that are better built for like outdoor stuff. This is not going to be the right kind of bag for that. So next, let's talk about the materials on this bag, the design and the materials on this bag. Now, the first thing you notice is this bag has a very distinct kind of like trapezoidal top flat design that looks a lot like, and I mean a lot like, the long-running Arc'teryx Granville 25, though this one has a lot of subtle refinements. I think overall it's a much better executed bag in some respects than the Arc'teryx one. It doesn't have any inherent structure or padding, save the back panel. So it's got like this flat back panel here. But the rest of the bag is just like a flat sack, as you've seen me kind of manipulate it here. When it's fully loaded with soft, bulky stuff, like a puffy or a blanket, and I'll show you that here in a little bit when I talk about the main compartment, you do get a nice, like, kind of like shape like this. And so when you watch the product video for this, that's why they have this thing stuffed up with like, not airbags, but like puffies or whatever, because it looks better when it's filled with soft things. If you're not regularly carrying blankets or puffies, like, something to think about here. The bag fills out with this kind of soft, gently rounded kind of bottom area with kind of like a gentle kind of like squircle kind of bottom panel, and kind of gentle sloping down there. The top flap forms this defining feature of the bag, and it dominates the overall silhouette of the bag. It has some folding and gusseting, which I'll talk about when I talk about this section here, that prevents water from getting in there. When it's not filled up, the bag looks a lot like this. It's just, this is a normal EDC loadout in here. And it just kind of looks frumpy and folded and saggy or whatever. Because it has this kind of, structure, it doesn't really stand up on its own. This is a bag that spends its life either like this or like this. Now, as 22 liters, it's not too large, both in terms of capacity nor visually when it's worn. The broad flap keeps it from looking too small, even I think on people who are a little, broader shoulders or whatever. But like the overall kind of relatively svelte proportions of it makes it, not too big of a bag when you're wearing it. Doesn't look overwhelming, even on people with smaller frames, in my opinion. Fashion is always in the eye of the beholder. I don't know that this is a particularly beautiful bag, but like I said, I do think that it looks relatively distinct in a sea of most backpacks, except for, again, maybe the Granville 25 from Arc'teryx. It has a very sleek and kind of high-tech look, I think, that does match really well with like that techwear aesthetic, the gorecore aesthetic, or whatever here. Maybe the last thing I'm going to call out about the design before I move on to the materials is this new window that they have here for the I don't know, trademark, but like the classic quintessential Evergoods 1-inch patch. Normally that's like a Velcro panel that they have on the outside there. This time around they have a clear window through which you can slide one of their 1-inch patches in there, and I love this. I love the way that this is implemented. They also do this on the accompanying Elements small pocket pouches or whatever they release at the same time. Is really cool. I like it. It also looks good in my opinion, even when you don't have a patch inside of it. You can see it still looks good even without that, in my opinion. Next, let's talk about the materials. The official Evergoods product video for this product devotes quite a few minutes to Kevin D expounding upon the fabric and construction and techniques that Evergoods developed in the course of creating this bag. And even though I think that this bag will be of, at best, mixed utility for like the vast majority of people out there, I still appreciate like a lot of the thought and the consideration and the technology that went into the development of this bag and its manufacture. Evergoods says that the main fabric of the bag starts out as like the same 420D solution dyed nylon that they use in almost all of their mainline bags, which I really like. This is a solid and a reliable fabric that has worked fantastically across those bags for years, in my opinion. What they do then is they add like this TPU laminate on the inside. That's this internal white contrast layer that I think also enables them to do like the more advanced seam sealing techniques on there and the welding techniques. And then on top of that, they get like this PU coating, I think, for water resistance or even more water resistance. It does end up yielding a fabric that I think feels a little bit artificial, obviously compared to the 420D nylon. Obviously, nylon itself is also an artificial fabric, but it reminds me a lot of like Arc'teryx's AC2 fabric that they use in a lot of their outdoor-inspired urban bags, and also a lot of like their just normal bags here. So let's take a look here at the venerable Arc'teryx Valence No Mean Pack. But this goes, true for like any of their mainline bags that also use this, like the carrier duffels or the Granvilles or whatever. Like all of these, look, this is going to look very similar. You can kind of see. I mean, it's different, and yet it's the same. There's a lesson in there for us as humans. So very similar. And then if you look on the inside here, you get the similar kind of, similar tape seams here. Let me see if I can show you here more cleanly here. You can see the tape seams here, white contrast in the inside, etc. I'm sure that these are, again, like somewhat different fabrics, but like even like the way that the seams are kind of constructed and then taped, again, you can kind of see same thing on the Evergoods bags here. So it reminds me a lot of kind of Arc'teryx's technology. They've had this for years. This bag is, my goodness, this bag is old. The fabric itself is obviously waterproof, as I said multiple times, and you can get most dirt and stains wiped off of it really easily. The rest of the materials are the standard Evergoods high quality set of components, fidlock buckles for the main closure here, good high quality UTX plastic hardware, really great back mesh I'll talk about at the end here, etc. So just generally good quality materials, very good quality materials, high-tech materials for the body fabric and construction techniques and components. Next, let's talk about the front organizer admin section here. As I mentioned at the outset, one of the weaknesses of this bag is that in fact it has very low, below average organization options here. And specifically, it has a marked lack of any kind of practical, in my opinion, organization of the first order, even practical organization in general, and no first order access pocketing here. So the only organization is this section here. To get into here, you have to unbuckle the flaps, as I showed you, flip it open or do something with it, and then you have access to these two parts here. Now, the first part is this zipper pocket at the top, which has this waterproof one-way sealed coated zipper with a Hypalon pull tab. I said waterproof, very water resistant. I shouldn't say it's waterproof. And obviously it's protected by the flap as well. It actually has a pretty big pocket. It runs down this whole area here, this whole square area that you can see. And inside of it, let me just flip it over so you can see like, you can get a decent amount. It's flat, but there is some amount of like subtle, not subtle, just the way that this pocket's constructed, floating, lets it kind of like, bulk out or push out a little bit if you need. That has implications for what goes on with these pockets here. Talk about that in a second. It features the same internal white contrast laminate as the rest of the bag that I showed you. And I kind of talked about how the dimensioning works on here. This is the most useful pocket in the bag. That's not to say it's a super useful pocket, but it's, the most useful pocket on this bag. So anything important that you need quick access to has to go in this bag, in this pocket here. So in here I have Bellroy Apex wallet, my keys clipped onto this lanyard. I'll talk about that in a second. What else I have in here? Another kind of card case or whatever, Montbell coin with some bills in there, Montbell coin pouch, AirPod Pros, and a Bellroy case, and then an air tag. And that's it for here. You could fit more stuff in there. But this is kind of like, all the like essentials that you need quick access to, I put in there. And then, as I mentioned, it has this key leash here, which is super useful for, because everything kind of gets jumbled in this main pocket because there's no organization. So it ends up like in this big lump at the bottom. So when you're kind of trying to fish in there, and then the opening is a little bit narrow relative to how much you can get inside of this pocket. So sometimes you're kind of like fishing around in there. Two things, like this key leash, super useful for just grabbing it and pulling your keys out. It's too short and it's mounted very high on the body of the bag. So what that means is if you've got it slung over your shoulder, you can't really, you might be able to. I usually found it was very fussy to try and get into my door with the keys attached to this, but I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it depends maybe very much on where your doorknob is positioned. I'm contrasting this to, like, I think a couple weeks ago I reviewed the the Alpaca Gear Metro Pack Pro, and that one had a longer key leash that was mounted at the bottom of the bag, so you had even more kind of travel to be able to kind of open door with your keys attached. So compared to that, this one was a little bit, whatever. But it's nice to be able to just kind of fish your keys out here. That's a great touch in there. The last thing maybe to say is there's no other internal organization in here. And like I said, you can stuff it as much as you want, but that's going to kind of basically bulk up this section, which is going to affect these top mounted pockets up here. So what are these top mounted pockets up here? Well, when you look at the bag from the front here, you've got this flap that covers these two drop-in pockets right there. You can see there. I like this flap in theory because, like, one of the nice things about this flap is you can actually tuck it in like this, so the pockets are pure drop-in pockets. I like that. Like, they have a little bit of allowance here, and I thought that was nice. Like, it's kind of, you can pop it up if you want extra weather resistance, or pop it down if you want to be able to get inside of there. So these are just two, like this, there's no elastic, there's no whatever. These are two flat pockets that are sewn here. Let's start with the one on the bags, on my left, I guess here. Inside of here is just a simple drop-in pocket. I've got some chapstick, a comb, and some hand sanitizer. You can fit a phone in here. I didn't. I'll talk about why in a second. I don't carry my phone in here. And on this side, you do have a flat pocket, and then you have like these two little pen. There's actually two here. I'll pull one out, like you can see here. Two pen organizer pockets or whatever. I think this one's a good place to put like a field notes, and then you obviously have your pen in here. They're very tight. Like, these are just inherently very flat pockets. Like I said, you could put a phone in here, but the problem is when you put stuff, like I said, in this main pocket, it all bulges out. So if you're trying to get a phone in this pocket, it often gets a lot of pressure right on the screen. Either you put your screen facing outward, which is a recipe to, break your phone screen. I've done that before when I set a bag down and hit the wall, and I'm like, well, there goes my phone. Or, like you put the screen face inward, and then like all this pressure from what you have inside of this pocket pushes up against it, kind of forces it to flex. I didn't find this very convenient, because also, like, if you're trying to get your phone out, like, you're like, oh, you got to sling the bag and then get the flip and the flap and then get the thing out. And it's just not, it wasn't a pleasant experience. I ended up carrying my phone in my back pocket when I'm using this bag, because it's just so annoying to get it out of here. So that's, it's rough to find a backpack that doesn't have a great spot in usable EDC, in my experience, to have the carry a phone with. I don't think I'm using these pockets to their maximum advantage, but I also don't think you can use these pockets to the maximum advantage while you're also using this pocket to its maximum advantage. So you kind of have to choose there. That's it for the organization, my friends. And what that means is, like, at best, this entire bag has like 1.5 actually useful external organization pockets. And there's just so many small things I would normally carry as part of my EDC that I would put like in a pocket or whatever in a bag that like just has nowhere to go here. So it has to go in a pouch in the main compartment. And that obviously introduces friction of access. In the product design video for this bag, Kevin talked about how they prioritize weather resistance above everything when designing this bag. That's great. I feel like they might have gone too far, and it's like negatively impacting usability and practicality for the vast majority of people who will ever use this bag. Because as I said, like, it's a super narrow niche between true waterproofness and then like, here's like normal bags that are like have, you know, external zippers, but they have like storm guard zippers or whatever, or external first access, order access pockets with storm guard zippers and like a little zipper garage. Like, those are pretty water resistant, but still like not waterproof. Like, this bag is like, let's go further than that, make it more water resistant, get rid of all of those external pockets, even though they're quite water resistant already, put them only here, hide them under a flap, but the bag itself is still not truly waterproof. Like, that's such a narrow niche to aim for. And I feel like very few people are actually gonna find that to be the right compromise for them. But again, maybe I'm just not the right target for that. I really would have loved to have seen like one more, you know, first order access pocket. Like the Granville, the new version of the Granville has a side zipper pocket here that's kind of hidden by the flap. It's also it's also a sealed zipper, but like you can like zip it and get in and out of it quite quickly, which I like. I think that would have been a great thing to see on this bag. Still very water resistant, protected by a flap, but much easier to access. You don't have to unbuckle the flap again. Or I would have loved to have seen like the traditional Evergoods yoke mount here with a zip pocket there, even put like a coated zipper with a zipper garage, or even put a little flap over it. I don't know, like that would have been amazing. That would have made the utility of this bag in EDC use so much higher than what it is. Anyway, the main flap of this bag is this big flap trapezoid thing, big flap, broad top, distinctive feature of this bag, and also what makes it look like the Granville. It has these directional fidlocks, so you got to pull them kind of down and in, and they release here. That's these little things here. And then when you bring the thing closed, it kind of just snaps into place. One thing I did find though, like even though it's theoretically quite easy to just get it close and it snaps, you can see how like when the bag is worn sometimes, because it's got no structure, like sometimes you get like these folds and you have to kind of, I found it's a little bit, actually, like, yeah, I have to be a little bit more thoughtful than I have to kind of use my finger to locate the fidlock and put it in there. A nitpick, so I'm not like dinging the bag, just kind of something I would mention, which is like when the bag's all perfectly puffed out or whatever, yeah, you're right, just tap it in there and it locks. In practice, when the bag's kind of sagging and folded, you're going to be fiddling a little bit with these fitlocks here. Since it has so much fabric, which it needs in order to be able to be overloaded and kind of, you know, make the whole water resistance thing going on, I found that, you know, like trying to get inside of the bag, like when I'm wearing it, so tuck the bag over like this, pull down, like this is, there's a lot of this. And so I'm kind of like, so in reality, I found for this bag, when I wanted to get stuff out, it's very much like a set it down, roll the top flap down all the way and look inside kind of thing. As opposed to like, you know, a more traditional clamshell open where you can sling the bag on your side and like slide the zipper open and grab inside. Like there are some, like this bag, you look at this and you're like, oh, how would such a kind of loose trapezoidal thing be water resistant? They actually have some really clever, like subtle, there's like some subtle shaping. Obviously the Evergoods guys know their stuff. So it's a little bit of just the way they got the seams and a little bit of like just the flatness and the like, it just gives this nice little, you can see this little corner right here, a little bit of hard shaping, a pre-built crease line with a little bit of like triangular thing here. It just folds right over, and you get, this is what I mean, sometimes I gotta fuss to get the fidlock in there because of all the folds. And you get like this nice little folded over thing where the water has to like go up and in, so it's not really gonna, you know, get inside of there again unless you throw it in a lake or something. That's why this bag's not truly waterproof. So I like that. Like it's good, yeah, great shaping and just good. This bag I said this several times here. Like, this bag looks great, or it's best when it's filled with soft, puffy things. Okay, so let's put some soft, puffy things in there, and I'll demonstrate the overload strap. This is an Arc'teryx Beta. This one's the AR, Beta AR, which is a good choice, I guess, if you're worried about waterproofness. Put that in there. Just stuff it in there. Just stuff it in there. And you can see already, like, the bag has some pouches and stuff in the bottom there. The bag's already starting to look a lot better. And then this is a Arc'teryx System A Rebird blanket. I can't believe I paid money for this, but I also love it. That's right. It's a like several $100 puffy Arc'teryx blanket from their System A line. Okay. You stuff that at the top there. Like, now this bag looks great. It looks like the quintessential commuter bag, first of all. But you can see the problem is we can't get down to the fidlocks. So what they did is they did this, this strap here. It hooks in there. It's a simple G hook. Kind of hooks inside underneath there. And then there's a little loopy thing here. So you can take the overload strap, hook it onto this, and cinch it down, which also, incidentally, is how the Arc'teryx Granville bags, or at least some of them, close. So you can see they get this nice little overload strap. And I will say, though, like, you don't have, like, because when you overload it, like, it opens up these corners, like, it's no longer really water resistant. So I would consider it also kind of really starts to push, like with any kind of bag that has like an overload strap like this or something like that. You can see here, it starts to push the main volume and weight up above the shoulder line. There are no load lifters or anything to bring the load closer to you. So this starts to introduce some instability to the loadout. I would consider this then, more of like an emergency or short-term kind of overload functionality rather than something that, like if you're routinely trying to like carry, you need to max out the bag's capacity, like you should just get a bigger bag. This is, 22 liters. It has limits, but that's how the kind of overload system works and how the flap, looks when it's overloaded. And there's no way to kind of deal with these things there when it's overloaded. You can, obviously then take this back here. I didn't like this because I have this is just like a normal EDC load. It's actually really frictionful to kind of get this bag in there because like this whole thing is actually really chunky. So you have to kind of fish around and try and there we go. So anyway, that's what I mean when I say this bag looks best when it's filled with soft, puffy items. So now that we've talked about kind of getting into the main compartment via this top flap, let's talk about the main compartment itself. It is a very simple main compartment. You're looking now from the top of the bag down into the center, into the middle of the bag, or the main compartment of the bag. It's very simple. It's just this big, simple tube that I showed you with only a laptop and a tablet holder here, nothing else inside of there. It's contrast white. It does have this laminated interior layer of the body fabric. It has a slightly rubbery or plasticky feel. It's not too sticky, but it does, it's a little bit rubbery. It opens fairly wide up at the top, though it is a pretty, narrow and cylindrical bag once you kind of start getting into it, especially so, like easy to load stuff in here, but it starts getting harder to get stuff in and out of it. Since there is no, especially because at the bottom of the bag, you can see like there's this angle that's angled to kind of push the stuff towards your back for better load distribution. What that means is everything you put in this bag basically sinks into, anything small you put in this bag, sinks into this bottom portion here. So it gets a little bit hard to kind of get into there. Let's talk about what I have inside of here really quickly. This is a normal EDC load here. I have a North Face Japan pouch with like battery, my earbuds, like a Anchor USB battery, Beats Pro for the gym or whatever, a little hand towel for some reason, a pair of Arc'teryx, these are Rogue gloves on a carabiner, and then I have an Elements pouch that was also released at the same time as this one here, which just has like my electronics stuff, my battery chargers and cables and stuff for my computer. And I have Marvis kind of like toothbrush and little mini dop kit and some hand lotion because, as I said, it's winter, so your hands be getting chapped and all that. And that's it in terms of here. Look, it's completely empty, devoid of any organization, so pouches are absolutely a must. What happens is when you throw stuff inside of there, it all falls to the bottom, like I said. and then you have to like, jumble around to try and get what you want out of there. If you put something puffy on top of it, like your jacket, you're going to have to take that out before you can get anything inside of there, because like it's just lays on top of there. You can also see, looking into this main compartment, like you can imagine if you put like a heavy textbook or a camera or anything bulky like that, or anything hard and weighty or delicate, it's gonna, first of all, like you can imagine what a textbook would look like. It's kind of, the corners would poke out against this. A camera or something would just, hit whatever, you set it down, it would hit against the ground or whatever. Not the best bag. There's no padding or protection for that. Everything just fits in a jumbled mess inside there. The other part of the main compartment is the laptop and tablets section. There's this well padded, it's decently padded with a false bottom laptop kind of drop-in sleeve. We've seen this in some of their other bags. Holds up to like a 16-inch MacBook Pro. This is a 14-inch, one of the M4s that just came out there, MacBook Pro. This is the tablet pocket on top of that. It's just this thin, stretchy thing. It's quite tight. There are no like pen slots like some of their other ones. I forget which bag it was that implemented, had like a couple of pen drop-in pockets here. This one doesn't have that. It's just a stretchy panel. It fits up to an 11-inch iPad Pro with the keyboard cover, but not with the Magic Pencil attached. And it's quite tight fit. Inside of here, though, I have like a notebook, and then this is an iPad mini, which is, fits inside of there well enough. And that's it. That's all that there is in terms of organization and stuff. Oh, actually, one last thing to talk about when it comes to this tablet section and the main kind of internal organization, which is there's not really any place to put your papers, whether those are papers of pleasure or papers of business or other, whatever lies between pleasure and business. The best place I found, if you have to carry them, is to put them like in a plastic clear file folder and stick them here in the laptop compartment. But other than that, like anything you put in this section is going to get all bent up. All right, so last thing to talk about this bag here is going to be the load carriage system. Load carriage consists of this simple top handle with the kind of, now quintessential Evergoods kind of two loops on the side here. It's just the same body fabric with a hard piece of plastic in there. No like bridging, reinforcement, metal stay or anything like that. It's low profile in that you don't really see it from the front due to the big flap when it's being worn, but it's still there. Easy enough to pick up with a hand. Not too much cant, a little bit of cant. Depends on how you load out the bag. I was expecting there to be more cant, but it actually falls kind of vertically in line pretty well. There's no padding. It's not rounded, so like it's not very comfortable to carry over any kind of extended distance with just this. I also had a little bit of trouble sometimes getting my hand in there when I had thicker winter gloves on there, but like with bare hand or thinner gloves, like no problem, because it's kind of pops it up. The little plastic layer does. You can put like hero clips or something like that on the side if that's what you want. Overall, good, competent top handle here. The back panel of the bag consists of a moderately flexible frame sheet, which I think is appropriate for a bag of this size and what it's designed to carry, and a kind of broad, flat, lightly padded expanse of like their kind of, that great Evergoods custom air mesh implementation with these kind of broad bias zone, sections on there. Notably missing is like the quintessential Evergoods ergonomic yoke that you usually find up here in the yoke pocket. I already talked about like how I think that would have been an amazing addition to this bag. I wish they had done that. So this bag, usually Evergoods bags tend to like have this ability to kind of bend away from your main laptop if you have a bigger laptop. And then this one I found didn't bend away as much if I had like a 16-incher in there. It just tended to feel a little bit more like rigid than I maybe would have been used to with some of their other bags, but still like, it's a good flexibility for the frame sheet here. It's just a little bit simpler implementation, I think. The only padding on the back itself is that kind of proprietary Evergoods back panel air mesh. I've spoken highly of this air mesh in the past. I really like how smooth it is. I like how frictionlessly it kind of slides across the body or clothing. It doesn't like rip up your clothing. It's so superior to like that kind of more traditional kind of hole punch kind of black air mesh, fabric that you usually see. Think like on the airbags or whatever. It's also quite moisture permeable, which combined with kind of like this inner padding, which I think has some pretty thick pores in it. It lends it a kind of decent degree of sweat and moisture absorption when you're wearing the bag, but there are no channels really or like big raised areas for airflow. So, like you have to kind of temper your expectations, but I also think there's limits to that no matter what kind of, channels you have. This fits perfectly in line with the aesthetics of what I would expect for something that is like, it's a good solution, I think, for like a highly weather resistant bag. The last thing I will say about the back panel is that when it comes to Evergoods, people tend to fall into two camps when it comes to their bags. I think for the large majority of people, the back panels in a load carriage system tend to be very comfortable and they enjoy wearing them. It fits well, it's supportive contouring. I fall into this camp, which is one of the reasons why I love their bags. But there is a small but notable contingent of people I've seen online who say that the load carriage system and the back panel specifically just tends to like not work well with their body, or kind of hits like their lower back in the wrong area, no matter how they adjust it, etc. I have seen anecdotally online a few people who had said that they normally have problems with Evergoods bags, but they thought that the Weathershed was actually quite comfortable for them. I can believe that. Like I said, I don't have problems with their normal bags anyway, but I found this quite comfortable for this bag, especially for waterproof bag or water resistant bag. It's just simpler. It's a little bit differently shaped. Doesn't have the yoke or whatever. So if you don't normally get on well with their load carriage systems, you might want to check this one out. I liked it. It was fairly comfortable and relatively supportive for this size of bag. Last thing about the load carriage is the shoulder straps. Of course, implemented the same standard, excellent Evergoods way, like the venerable CPL 24 and more. Simple in construction. This is kind of like thick, not thick, moderate thickness, but quite dense foam core surrounded by the same body fabric here on the top face, and then the kind of same air mesh as the back panel on the bottom face fabric there. The moderate foam provides, like, I think load carriage that is stable enough and appropriate for a bag of this size and limited structure. And the whole shoulder straps are comfortable enough to wear under almost any kind of load. And they slide really nicely over your clothing thanks to this fabric without ripping anything up. You got this kind of moderate, I don't know, like moderate. It's not the most aggressive I've seen. It's also not the most gentle, like S-curve here. I found it quite ergonomic, worked well with my body. There was no like, no piping or anything like that, just kind of gentle rolled edges. I found it quite comfortable, articulated well, because like the foam ends here and you got like this nice little, flexi part here. Front of the shoulder straps are unadorned, save for this very standard implementation of like their sternum strap. This is the quintessential Evergoods sternum strap implementation. Earlier models had sometimes problems with like this ladder hook thing would come loose accidentally. This has been redesigned many years ago, and ever since then, like these stay they don't come loose. So very good degree of adjustability here. Good center click sternum strap, subtle embossed Evergoods logo there. No elastic here to kind of like, help it, flex under load, but that's okay. And then a built-in loop here to kind of tighten or to loosen. And because this kind of hook and ladder system is pretty standard in different, forms across different bags, you could probably replace this with a third-party strap if you so desired. The rest of this is just standard stuff. No integrated strap keepers here, but, integrated thumb loops to tighten or loosen. This is a very easy bag to put on, cinch tight or loosen. Just attaches here to the body there. The only thing that I would mention is that a lot of the Evergoods bags, their crossover bags, have like a port here, like a little flap here that leads into the main compartment where you can actually hook a hydration bladder onto a little clip and put it in the laptop compartment, and you run the hose out here and then you can drink from it. This one does not, presumably for, again, in the name of like increased water resistance, which I don't think it's going to be too broadly missed here. This isn't a good bag for outdoors anyway. So in conclusion, this is, an interesting bag that is quite different from a lot of the Evergoods bags, which are quite easy to recommend kind of off the bat. Like, high degree of water resistance, some really cool techniques and materials and manufacturing technology into this. Pretty good harness system for a highly weather resistant bag, but it comes at like quite a high degree of compromise. Very poor internal organization, no first order access organization, and kind of a very unstructured kind of body that, coupled with that kind of lack of organization, means that you need a lot of pouches, and it's a little bit fussy to kind of run this in a normal EDC lifestyle kind of situation. But if you're interested by the technology or the look, or you just want to try something cool and support the Evergoods guys, this might be a bag worth checking out, especially obviously if you need a really highly weather resistant bag. Speaking of which, if you're in the market for a bag like this, what are some other bags that you might want to consider? Okay, I've talked about it a few times here. This is an older version of it. This is the Arc'teryx Granville 25 bag. You can see right away the family resemblance. This bag is many years old at this point. They've done different versions of it. This one has magnets that attach here. The new ones have a drawstring opening at the top to kind of seal it in there. But this one does not. The new ones also have like kind of a first order access pocket that zips in here. This one does not. But you can see what it does have is some interesting internal organization here hidden under the flap. And then inside you have a, hey, this looks pretty familiar, right? Large main compartment with a laptop section and a tablet compartment and a couple of extra little pockets inside of there. It's a little hard to see in there, but you can see you got even more organization inside of this one. Your single strap closing here. And not the greatest harness system in the world, but it was fine when it came out many years ago. The new ones have a slightly better one. The Evergoods one still runs circles around it though. And you can see this is the kind of like that older air mesh style that I was talking about. You can see absolutely the Evergoods one is gonna, you know, beat the pants off of this. The Evergoods one is much better than this one. But you know, this is a much cheaper bag. And you can see a lot of inspiration was taken from this bag, available in a wide variety of colors and materials, and obviously highly weather resistant as well. If the thing that you like is a high degree of weather resistance, but you're looking for a more mainstream styled kind of EDC bag, this is the Black Ember Forge. This is actually not the Black Ember bag I would recommend. I would recommend something like the Black Ember Citadel or the Black Ember Shadow. I can't find my copy of either of those bags here. I have so many bags. These I looked everywhere. I have previously done a review of the Black Ember Shadow on this channel, so I'm going to link that in the description below. Black Ember does a different kind of highly weather resistant fabric. They also use a lot of like weather resistant, you know, coated zippers and stuff like that. The Shadow and the Citadel have a more traditional kind of clamshell or kind of like access and main compartment and much more organization and decent-ish shoulder straps with kind of interesting stowaway functionality on some of them or whatever. Like Black Ember makes interesting bags. They're quite heavy, but it might be worth checking out. If you like the weather resistance of the Weathershed, but like you just needed a little bit more pocketing or just like a more doable EDC kind of situation. Okay, these are also some pretty, this is a bag I haven't talked about on the channel before. These are by Ukon Acrobatic. It's a Berlin-based company here. They do a variety of like, they advertise heavily on Instagram. Or they used to, I don't know if they still do. These are from their commuter line. You can actually see like, kind of like, you know, similar commuter style inspired construction. These are made out of tarpaulin, so I'm going to be, you know, these are made out of tarpaulin, welded seams, roll top, very, very weather resistant. The down, and you can see the same thing, kind of like adjustable kind of main strap here. They have several different varieties. Like for example, this one I think is the Jasper medium commuter, which has like some additional strappage here and like a pocket here, which kind of closes with some magnets. How do they work? And a flap there. And then also this one is the Hajo, I think, also commuter shoes. This has like bungees and stuff inside here. Different kind of implementation of the top roll top section here. I will be the first to say, like, the materials in here and the execution are not nearly as good as the Evergoods. You can kind of see, like, straightforward would be like the pleasant adjective, and maybe brutish or like slightly unrefined would be the less pleasant adjective. But it might be something to check out. Inside you have the same thing. You have a a sleeve for your laptop and for your tablet and a couple of extra pockets. And other than that, it's just a big empty void. It looks fairly similar in profile when you get it kind of filled up or whatever. If you really want a true waterproof bag, this is not a true waterproof bag. You need to go to something like the Ortelieb, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, also from Germany, I think, series of bags. This is the Ortelieb A-Track CR25. I do not in any way recommend this bag as an EDC bag, but they do have a variety of highly water resistant EDC bags we're checking out. But this is what a true waterproof bag, you know, looks like. Like, look at this zipper. It's quite, you can see it locks into place. This is a very different kind of zipper. truly waterproof bag. You can throw this one in a lake; it's going to survive. You can take this one on a, canoe trip or whatever, and if you fall in, you're going to be fine. I'm not going to get into the details of this bag, but I just want to talk about this brand because, like, they do have a large degree of like EDC-style bags that are very, very water resistant. Slightly better pocketing on some of them than on the Elements Weathershed. And if you need a true outdoor waterproof bag, look at this brand. And finally, of course, like, if you like just generally like the materials and the construction techniques of this, Arc'teryx makes a wide variety of bags that utilize a lot of like their outdoor technology, a lot of RF welding and seam taping and waterproof AC2 fabrics and all those things. This is, the valence no amine I showed earlier. A great extremely water resistant take on an EDC bag. This one's priced a little bit higher. I don't know if I necessarily recommend this one, but it certainly is much more functional as an EDC bag. This one, but they have a wide variety. Go ahead and check those out as well. They have like the Granville 16, not the 25, which I showed you, but like the 16, which is a more traditional EDC style, smaller backpack, which is also highly water resistant. A few other things they have like that. And so really that's it. If you have any questions about this bag, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. And if I can, I will answer them. And if you have any bags you would like me to review, go ahead and leave those in the comments below. And if I can, I will review them. Thank you very much. Find some, if your valuation paradigm allows you to, what am I talking about? Okay, let's start that one again.